Welcome to the Human Relations Day podcast. We're counting down to this special Sunday in January where we empower those in crisis so they can overcome formidable obstacles. Thanks for joining us and for supporting this important cause.
Well, welcome to the Human Relations Day podcast. My name's Rich, the host around these parts. Thanks so much for tuning in as we count down to this really important day in our calendar. It's really a very special Sunday in the life of our church. And today, it's our privilege to have Jay Campbell with us. Jay is from Clinton, New Jersey. Nice to have another guy from New Jersey on the line. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Now, why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about your ministry? What is it that you do? Tell us about your kind of current work.
So right now at Clinton UMC, I am the Director of Youth, Young Adults, Ministries, and Missional Witness. The primary part of my job is focused on the youth ministry and, the many aspects that entails, and trying to continue maintaining and establishing our young adult ministry, and then working as kind of the staff liaison to our mission committee to help us continue to move forward from, just kind of understanding mission as something we do occasionally to seeing that the missional nature of God is something we embody every day and not something that we simply do, but at our core, it's who we are. And so trying to work and take small steps to moving our entire church to being kind of that representation in the world.
Nice. Very cool. Now, why don't you give us a sense of maybe some of those missional things you're engaged in as a church? What's some of that, activity that you're doing?
So right now, I guess a couple of the things I've been most excited about is that on Tuesdays, our church has become kind of a host site for a local nonprofit that works a lot with victims of domestic violence. And so and one of the things we do is just really kind of providing the space for them to, on Tuesdays, have meetings for people that it may be a challenge to get to the main site, and so that they kind of offer different almost site locations. So we offer that every Tuesday for people to come and meet social workers and to get the help that they need in recovery, and hoping those issues don't happen again. And then we've recently, our church is voted to become a host site for this nonprofit Family Promise, which helps people, homeless families transition to sustainable living. And so they usually a group of up to about 14, usually women and their children, kind of go from church to church every week. And so we this year will be kind of our first time in hosting the families for a week in July. So we're pretty excited about that. And
very cool.
Kind of the next step we're going to be looking at is trying to encourage the church to take a group to ecumenical advocacy days next April in Washington, D.C. to help us begin to see kind of the advocacy part of ministry and justice. And so that's kind of the next step that I'm looking at.
Interesting. So now there's churches that are listening in that don't participate in Human Relations Day. They're like, listen, there's another special day coming. We're just going to let this one pass by. What would you say to them to say, hey, you should actually get plugged in? Why should church, and why does your church participate in it? Well, I mean, for me, this is such a central part of our faith, and even looking back at John Wesley and the huge emphasis on personal holiness and social holiness, and him giving much of his life to caring for the poor, for prison reform, for the many ways he, even reached out to children in poverty, and that being such a central part of his identity. And, I think that still carries with us in the Methodist Church today, that we can't look at the world and say, this is how God intended it to be. And as people of faith, we really do have a responsibility to make the world a better place where people can live in peace. There's not a threat of violence. There's equal opportunities for people to pursue education, to pursue life out of poverty, and coming together, and also helping work towards ending a lot of the isms, especially such as racism and sexism, that are still very prevalent today. And and I know there's always a tendency in the church that sometimes we want to kind of shy away because it's difficult, it may be controversial, but I mean, if these issues really are what so many, at the heart of the issue is, it's people facing these realities every day. And don't we want to know what God has to say on the subject? And so why wouldn't we want to, really try to wrestle with these in the church to say, people face this, and what did the lived ministry of Christ show us? Is so often we skip to the death and resurrection that we can kind of neglect the ministry that he lived every day and what that really models for us. So
very true. Well, that's that's fantastic. Now, a few years ago, you were engaged in some work down in New Orleans. What do you tell us a little bit about that? What was it that you were doing down there?
Yes. So actually, my second year of seminary, I was at Wesley Theological Seminary, Washington, D.C. I interned at the United Methodist Journal Board of Church and Society, and primarily worked on the issues of human trafficking, especially in its relation to the Super Bowl. And so at the time I was there, the Super Bowl was going to be played in New Orleans, which many studies have shown that the Super Bowl is the largest event in the U.S. in which human trafficking occurs.
Wow. And
so I traveled down to a conference that many kind of local organizations were having about their efforts to highlight the issue of trafficking that was going to be at the Super Bowl, and to look for kind of community organizing ways to get awareness out, especially to people who might be trafficked, and to provide resources that if they find themselves in that situation, they can reach out for help, and also partnering with local law enforcement to be on the lookout and to, hopefully limit and prevent as much as possible. And so we, we're just there kind of seeing the work that they were doing, and also wanting to kind of the Super Bowl to be a central part of the human trafficking work at GBCS at the time, and seeing where the next cities would be and how we could continue to learn and build on that. And we also visited a local Methodist church that had kind of a special house for people, I believe, who'd been victims of trafficking and are now on the road to healing and recovery, and just to have a safe place to live without, the threat of being forced back into that life.
Absolutely. Wow. That's incredible. Well, is there anything else you'd love to share with our listeners who are listening in today as we think about Human Relations Day?
Yeah, just even though it's hard, and the work, especially of justice and change in the world, it's very slow steps, and it can be probably more often discouraging than encouraging. But I think, in the words of Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, never lose hope, never give up hope, and believe at the end of the day that God is not finished. Even the gates of death won't prevail against the church and the work that we do. So continue to hope and believe, and trust that God is actively at work in all places in the world, inviting us to participate. And the world needs people of faith and churches to come alive and catch on to this vision for the kingdom of God here and now. So
very cool. Well, we can finish with a quote from Lord of the Rings. That's fantastic. That's always a good day.
Yes.
So, thanks so much, Jay, for being on the show today. If people want to get in touch with you or your church, how can they do that?
You can email me at jay@clintonumcnj.com, or our website is clintonumcnj.com, and you can get access to us there, and would love to follow up any conversations people of interest might have. So
nice. Thanks so much, Jay.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you for joining us for the Human Relations Day podcast. We want you and your church to join us for this special Sunday that supports this important cause. Drop by umcgiving.org/HRD for more information on how to get involved.